Hello and welcome, my name is Crash, and I've been reading Weekly Shonen Jump for a while now. Since the release of Manga Plus in early 2019, I've been reading the full magazine every single week. But even before that, it wasn't that rare for me to start reading new manga that started in the magazine. Nisekoi and Assassination Classroom were two examples of manga that I followed almost since chapter 1. But most of the ones that I've started got cancelled. I think most of Shonen Jump series I've read in general, or ACT series. Now, I don't really feel the need to talk about most of them as they end, because most of them tend to just be alright. Some of them are bad, some of them are good, but there isn't much to say when they end. However, out of all the 40 or 50 Shonen Jump ACT titles that I've read, one stands out to me, one that just ended this week. Earthchild. This one isn't just bad. I think it's an interesting case study of how to not structure your story beats. And today we're dissecting the story beat by beat and learning how to not write like it. This is a review of Earthchild, Shonen Jump's biggest mess. Now, I don't really like doing negative videos that often, and when I do feel the need to clarify that if you enjoy Earthchild, this is not supposed to be an attack. Please keep enjoying the things that you do. I certainly enjoy and love a lot of manga that a lot of other people hate, so I'm not at all in a position to judge your tastes. I don't even think that Earthchild is the worst manga I've read, or even the worst Shonen Jump manga I've read. That title goes to Our Blood Oath. As a matter of fact, contrary to that one, I really enjoyed the first chapter of this manga. I've done a video on my reactions and thoughts of it when it came out, as I do with every single Shonen Jump manga in this channel. A link for that will be in the upper corner. I think the main concept of this chapter is amazing, honestly. One interesting trend that it's been happening over the course of the last decade, maybe due to the rise of superhero movies, is the concept of having someone without powers as a central character. One that is just born in the amazing mystical world, but is actually just a regular human being, just like us. I think it's an interesting idea for two reasons. One, we're already kind of familiar with this magical world, so the idea of seeing them through a different lens is appealing. But two, it's also relatable. Sure, we don't live in a world with magical beings, but how many of you have felt inferior to other people, to someone that just seems to have higher capabilities that are simply better than us? The idea of having to live with beings far above you and still trying to matter and being relevant is, at the end of the day, relatable. Over the past decade, Shonen Jump has given us three main takes on this idea: My Hero Academia, Black Clover, and Mashal. And looking at those, it's easy to see where they fail. All of the main characters end up either being given a superpower or being special right from the get-go. On the other hand, Earthchild seems to tackle this idea and circumvent the problem pretty easily. The story starts with our normal human being, Reisuke, meeting an Earthchild. The superhero is one of a kind, supposedly. There only exists one of them at any single point, supposedly. Plus, the entire first chapter is all about these two meeting over and over again and falling in love, start dating, and eventually even marry and having a child. Reisuke doesn't need superpowers, because he's not fighting anything. His role in the story is to show that he doesn't really need to have superpowers to matter and to affect people. It's by being normal that he can give Kareri normal moments and give her a chance to enjoy her own life. In terms of showing that quote-unquote normal people matter, I do think this first chapter does a better job than all of the other three. It all culminates on a very emotional scene, where Kareri sacrifices herself to save the Earth and her family. Then we have the reveal that their son Mamoru is the next Earthchild. The first chapter is really good. It's not without flaws, notably it is very rushed. The entire thing could have been a full manga instead of a 50-page chapter, but it's actually probably one of my favorite chapter ones. But even then, I knew that there was a massive problem. If you go back to my previous video, even without any knowledge of how chapter 2 was going to look like, I mentioned that the chapter already ends where the manga itself should end. The entire first chapter is a romantic story of these two characters, and that's not going to be a part of the rest of the manga, supposedly. Now, to be fair, us moving from a normal dude trying to have a relationship with a superhero to a normal dude trying to raise a superhero is not that differently thematically, so it can work. But it's from this point on that it's clear that either the author doesn't really know where to take the story, or he was pushed by either the editors or the reception or himself to move away from its initial plans, because everything breaks down. Chapter 2, for the most part, is still somewhat solid. People try to take away Mamoru, but Reisuke proves himself to be worthy of raising him more so than anyone because family. However, it's the last page that starts the trend of ruining everything that the manga is going for. Kareri died in such an emotional manner, and this story is now being sold to us on the concept of a single dad raising his child. Not just that, but a normal dude alone trying to figure out how to raise someone with superpowers. But then, Kareri isn't dead. Not only does that kill any emotional investment on the ending of chapter 1, but also considerably changes what the manga is going for. This is no more the story of a man trying to raise his child like it was hinted so far, but instead a rescue story. One that at this point has 3 options. 1, it's the main plot of the rest of the entire story, running the risk of becoming incredibly stale. 2, they end up saving Kareri, changing the story to be about a couple raising a superhero, but one of them that is already a superhero, diminishing the entire point and role of our main character. Or number 3, Kareri dies again, making this entire plot stupid and dumb. Number 3 is at the same time the worst option, as again it makes the entire reveal look stupid and dumb and useless, but also kind of the best option, because it takes us out of this hole that we just dig ourselves in, and it allows us to go back on track. However, this entire manga, bar the final act, is option 1. This is now a full-fledged rescue manga. We still get a little bit of Reisuke trying to raise Mamoru in the beginning in what I think are decent chapters, but it doesn't take too long for those chapters to be completely dropped in favor of just focusing on the task at hand. It's at this point that we learn that another Earthchild does exist. And while I could whine and focus on the fact that it breaks the established lore, I don't care much. The existence of an Earthchild, one whose powers have been diminishing since the awakening of Kareri, isn't too much of a contradiction, so The character does weaken the point of Mamoru being raised alone by a normal human, but at this point, chapter 7 or 8, that ship has already sailed, so it doesn't really matter. I'd rather focus on the next big plot that goes nowhere. Reisuke is told that Mamoru would probably take 10 years before he was ready to save Kareri, time that Reisuke isn't really sure that Kareri has. However, there is an alternative. There is a way to age Mamoru 10 years. Option rejected by the next chapter in favor of, I don't know, just go to space and wing it. With about 2 pages to explain that they will train to go to space, our next scene is them in space, and he's finally able to see his loved one, even if just for a second. There, they devise a plan that involves not being in space right now. I need to point out just how mad that makes me. This is to me the peak Earthchild showing a lack of focus and showing that he doesn't really know where to go. Why would you just make your character just go into space, not really even showing them doing it, just be there, to just realize barely chapter in, having done actually nothing in space, that actually these characters had something that they need to be in Earth for. It's like the writer just forgot he had a small arc planned before the space arc, so he had to make them go back. It's in this impromptu arc, however, that we learn that Kareki's parents have forgotten about her being an Earthchild. And as per usual in this manga, we solve that right away by telling them about it and also that she was alive. At this point, we learn that a meteorite shower will happen soon, potentially killing Kareri, so we're right back in space, as they are trying to train Mamoru for this plan that has been built up for a decent amount of chapters now. It turns out that the meteor shower is happening before their predictions. It's actually happening right now, which means that you will actually have to give up on that plan, making all of these travels and training and everything just unneeded. Instead, they just use this second Earthchild dude to just fly Reisuke to Kareri. Why wasn't that the original plan, instead of just, putting everything on the shoulders of a literal baby? I don't know. However, the plan is risky, and while they do save Kareri, Reisuke sadly passes away, trading one life with the other, giving us an emotional ending that we already had on chapter 1, but now with the reversed roles and a way more convoluted way to reach there. It's fair to say that this moment didn't hit as much as the first. I mean, the entire manga at this point has been building up to the entire family be reunited to just pull this on the readers, especially knowing that they had tried that already on chapter 1 and the other completely made a joke out of the people who cared by actually not killing Kareri at all. Do not worry, because he does it again. Yes, Reisuke is not dead, despite Kareri literally crying over his dead body just at the end of the previous chapter. Reisuke ends up talking with Earth itself, which is of course an anime schoolgirl as one is in anime and manga. And for the most part, I don't really have a problem with Earth, either as a character or as a plot twist. It's revealed that she is in charge of everything and that she greets the Earth children, but it's actually in the name Earth children, and it was foreshadowed, which is a remarkable thing in this manga. What I have a little bit more of a problem is how Reisuke just overpowers her because he loves his family. Like, this is the first guy to ever die but love his family enough to be able to return to life. Nobody else in the world ever loved their family quite like this guy. So he returns to life, and Kareri with his love managed to bring back Mamoru from space because he was still there, and the manga plot ends. They're all happy together, and they will be able to raise Mamoru as a loving family. The end. Except it's not. Chapter 21 ends the first act, and then chapter 22 time skips us into older Mamoru for actually the worst part of the series. Not only are we changing main characters, we're also literally skipping most of what should be the bulk of the manga. Now, to be fair, at this point the manga was either already cancelled, or at the very least the author and the editor were very aware that that was one of the more likely options for the manga going forward. So to just trash everything and go for something completely different is not the worst of ideas, but as a final package it just feels very odd and not very cohesive. So turns out that the entire family is now a trio of superheroes as they go on missions together. But on their most recent mission, plot twist, Earth-chan is back again. She tries to kill Reisuke and take Mamoru for herself by making him see visions of their parents hurting, trying to make him believe that they're better without him. He doesn't believe it, so she does it again, and he doesn't believe it again, so she just beats them all up. But they are stronger due to the fact that they are the only family who loves each other, ever. I mean, at this point the family starts being super tight to an annoying degree, but family love is also the main theme of the manga, I guess. They all manage to talk to Earth in order to convince her that they love each other, and she kinda just does the same spiel for the third time, but now for the whole family. But turns out that they don't care because plot twist, they love each other. I mean, it's not really that different from what Reisuke said in their first encounter, or that Mamoru said just a couple of chapters before, but this time she accepts it, and brings him back to life and gives up on everything. And it's with one final time skip and another chapter showing that they love each other that we end this manga. Again, this is not the worst manga to be published in the pages of Shonen Jump, but with how many times it changes directions, how many times those changes actually go nowhere, or pretty much every conflict is resolved or changed or in a chapter or less, it really builds up to a directionless mess. It's hard to get invested in anything in it, and while it does have good parts in it, especially a lot of the flashbacks, it all really amounts to nothing in the final package, leaving it to be just another forgotten act in the vast catalog of titles in Shonen Jump. But if you want to see me talk a little bit more positively on another manga that got axed in Jump, you can click on the video on the left where I study how Ayashimo uses Jump magazines in its storytelling. And if you watched it till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.